וידבר אדוני על משה בהר סיני לאמור. אם בחוקותי תלכו, ואת מצוותי תשמרו, ועשיתם אותם. When I got a new phone, it came with little or no instructions. Have you experienced that situation? At least it would be nice to have a quick start card or something to help with the initial setup. But as soon as I started using it, there were multiple legal documents that I was required to read and sign before I could use anything on it. Does anyone get annoyed by that? I did not know whether to be more upset at the lack of instruction or the colossal amount of legal reading I was expected to do before I could use it. We are living in a world where we are not always told what we need to know, and then expected to know what goes beyond our understanding. Maybe things are not so much different from biblical times. Today's parshot are a double portion, starting with Behar. Behar means at the mountain, referring to Mount Sinai. Can you imagine what it was like for the children of Israel as they were at Mount Sinai, entering into a covenant with the Creator of the universe? The instructions were detailed and as intimidating as the legal documentations we read today, which makes us wonder how much we are really expected to know. How much more intimidating were the instructions at Mount Sinai? As I sat stressing over the phone, trying to set it up and wondering what the legal documents I had signed really said, I wondered how stressful it must have been at Mount Sinai. Today's problems seem inconsequential compared to being at Mount Sinai. Many of them could not read, and so the instructions were read to them. Deuteronomy 31:11 says, "When all Israel have come to appear in the presence of ADONAI at the place he will choose, you are to read this Torah before all Israel so that they can hear it." They did not have the ability to just scroll down and click accept. A person's natural inclination is to want something and agree with little or no focus on the consequences of a contract. For Jewish people, the covenant with Moses is a contract with the Creator. For Christians, the teachings of Yeshua and the terms of the Jerusalem Council in the book of Acts are instructions that are followed in order to go to heaven. It is good for all of us to hear the scriptures that connect us with God. Imagine how intimidating if it started, "And God said to Moses." That would be a contract that I would read and read again. Bechukotai starts with the second portion saying, "In my instructions." Instructions are important, as are the consequences of following them. I'm reminded of a story that I would like to read. Rabbi Shlomo, a man known for his wisdom and love of good date, was approached by two merchants, Reuben and Simeon. Reuben, a plump fellow with a booming laugh, presented a contract written on a fine piece of parchment, its edges slightly singed from a recent cooking mishap. Simeon, thin and fidgety, clutched a similar document, albeit one with a small ink stain shaped like a candle. "Rabbi," Reuben boomed, "we have a dispute. We have agreed to exchange dates, 100 pounds of plump medjool dates for 100 pounds of sweet Deglet Nor dates. on the third day following the setting of the sun, as the contract clearly states. Simeon chimed in, "But Rabbi, the third day has passed. The deglet nor dates were delivered at the appointed time, and Reuben refuses to give his medjool dates. He claims that the setting of the sun on that day was not a proper setting." Rabbi Shlomo took the contracts, adjusted his spectacles. He noticed both contracts had the same wording, likely copied by a scribe. "Tell me," Rabbi Shlomo said, "what constitutes a proper setting of the sun?" Reuben puffed out his chest. "Well, Rabbi, it is known that the sun must set behind a perfectly straight line, like the horizon of the sea. On that particular day, a small cloud obscured the sun, thus causing it to have a zigzag setting." Simeon scoffed. "Rabbi, Reuben is making up excuses. He simply doesn't want to give up his medjool dates. The sun sets, the sun sets." Rabbi Shlomo sighed. "My dear merchants, it seems your foolproof contract is, well, a bit of a pickle. It speaks of the setting of the sun, but not of its quality of setting." He then offered a parable. A man once asked his neighbor for a cup of water, and the neighbor readily agreed. But when the man arrived, the neighbor presented him with a beautifully crafted, soft, solid gold cup. "But I wanted a drink of water," the man cried. The neighbor replied, "Ah, you asked for a cup, and I have provided one." You see, my friends, sometimes even the most detailed agreement must allow for common sense and practicality. Rabbi Shlomo then said to both Reuben and Simeon, the contract was clear about dates, but not about the setting of the sun. So I propose that both parties go home and rethink on what is fair. Then return to me, and if they agree on something, we can try to draft a contract again, this time with less poetry and more common sense. The two merchants returned to their homes, hopefully more considerate to each other. Rabbi Shlomo then enjoyed a nice plump medjool date. My wife makes a great charoset for Pesach using medjool dates. When I shop for the ingredients, I must follow the instructions clearly, or better yet, bring my wife with me. If I get the ingredients that are right, I will get to enjoy the charoset she makes. It is common sense that I do my best if I want the desired result. The portion in Bechukotai starts by stating that by following the instructions in the Torah, God will bring the rain in its season. My phone contract said nothing about the effectiveness of the phone or its apps. My part of the contract seemed limited to caveat emptor, which means let the buyer beware. Why do we fear the things in this world and not the responsibilities we have to our Creator, or for that matter, each other? It would be a good idea for all of us to read the scriptures carefully and give ourselves to ADONAI and each other rather than depending on His loving kindness and mercy. Have a good week, and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for visiting this site, and I want to explain that if my video is titled Message, it is more an emotional explanation of the parsha that we read for that week, whereas if it is titled Lesson, then it will be a more academic presentation of the parsha, reading more scripture and looking for
truth rather than looking for emotional meaning. Thanks again for coming here. Shabbat Shalom.